and welcome to our program. Today we are visiting Go Extreme, an exhibition here at Kunsthal Aarhus. An exhibition that can be even called a festival. And today we're going to have a guided tour with the curator of the exhibition Go Extreme, Peter Pedersen. Hi Peter.
Hello,
How
good to meet you.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Because you're the curator of this Go Extreme exhibition. What can you tell us about it?
Well, I can tell you that this is an exhibition that is based on a special prize we have here in Denmark. It's a prize that was sort of like instigated by BURT Foundation, where they each year give out a prize for one specific idea for an exhibition, and I was so lucky to win that in collaboration with Kunsthal Aarhus 2 years ago. And then we started planning on this big exhibition, and the exhibition is an exhibition that examines the relationship between art and extreme sports, and also just uses extreme sports as, maybe most importantly, as a subject for investigating all of our relationships to our mind and to our body.
Okay. And how did this idea appear? Because like art and extreme sports usually don't really go together. How did this start?
Well, it started some years back when I was reading a horror novel by Stephen King, so like very pulpy and a popular cultural point of departure. And I got very interested in it. The novel is about this, it's called The Long Walk, and it's about these young men that are competing in an extreme marathon, where the premise of that marathon is if you don't walk fast enough, you get shot. And the winner of the marathon is the last man standing. And of course, this is one thing, it's sort of like maybe not that important, but reading this novel or rereading this novel and getting into this sort of like story again gave me the idea to sort of like examine both like, okay, what is the premise? What's actually, how can we use that to delve into contemporary art? And I think there's like a lot of connections here. One of them is that a lot of extreme sports is concerned with environment, which is also like a premise for creating an exhibition, that you have to work with spaces and you have to sort of model them in a certain way. And there are also, I would say, a lot of similarities between, there's of course a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities between artists and extreme sport athletes. There are a focus on working with a singular vision and achieving something that is, some would say that this is sort of like a romantic view of the artist, but no matter how you want to view it, that is how a lot of artists work. They work from a point of departure, and they work with an idea, and then they, in many different ways, visualize this, and then they create an art piece. And this singular vision that is also often part of the, at least like the profile, the professional as extreme sport athletes, but also people that are sort of like into it and doing it on an amateur level, is to sort of like deal with a specific vision they have to. They want to complete a marathon, they want to cross an ocean in a rowboat, whatever they want to do. It's also like this singular vision that you want to follow.
Like goal-driven people.
Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of differences as well. We can always get into those, but it was these similarities that interested me, and then it also interested me a lot to sort of create an art exhibition where I could get the chance to invite athletes, sports practitioners in a more open way into these total scenographies created by artists.
Yeah, because you had several events also with the sportsmen and women. I believe you said 37?
During the entire exhibition period,
yeah,
from
like 6 months around.
Yeah. So we're also going extreme with events.
Yes, but so you had talks, and you're going to have a championship.
We're going to have a full tournament in mixed martial arts as part of the exhibition. We have an arena down there, a sports arena that we've borrowed from a local sports club in Aarhus. And we've also had like a number of events where both we have artists or athletes that introduce their work and introduces this collaboration. An example could be we had a visit from the American base jumper Ellen Brennan. She is portrayed in a documentary called Conversations with a Wingsuit Artist that focuses on this her life, and also I would say in some way her life philosophy as a base jumper. We had 2 events with her where she was introducing this film and in an open discussion with the audience about this, in some people's mind, like radical choice in her life of doing this. And another example would be we had a full marathon concert where we had 2 ultra runners, Stine Rex and Christina Skov Madsen, that each ran a full marathon. And then the Danish composer and musician Marie Højlund, she based an entire composition and a concert on their running, on their breathing, on their body rhythm. So
yeah, I think everybody is really curious now.
Yeah,
so maybe we can start with the tour.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. You were mentioning this was the first thing.
This has become sort of like a kind of a signature piece for the exhibition. This is a sculpture made by the Danish artist Søren Tilo Funder, and it's called Dutch and Dutch. And of course, it's a direct reference to movie characters that Arnold Schwarzenegger is playing in a science fiction film from 1987. I think it's more important what Søren has been trying to do with the public sculpture and working with this as part of Go Extreme. And of course, very obviously, he has put this maybe the connotation you get from Arnold Schwarzenegger is this traditional macho man, and he has put him in this kind of vulnerable embrace with himself, and also like the sculpture is almost like embedded in the grass field. It's almost like sprouting from the grass field as a form of plant. I think like Søren has chosen to work with this our notion of like portraying well-known people, historical or existing people in public sculptures, and approach this in all sorts of different ways. Because what we are seeing here is like fictionalized versions of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we all have a relation to hyper popular people. But that relation can be formed in all different ways. It can be like ultra critical, it can be affirmative, it can work in all sorts of ways. And I think that the Søren sculpture activates this type of relationship in a very interesting way. That's sort of like the start of the exhibition. And also, if we look over here, there's another, I would say both a sculpture and also like an active piece of art. This is an artwork by the Danish painter Jonas Pihl, and the composition of this piece is dictated by different things. It's both dictated by visuality, like the artistic world that Jonas creates in his paintings, but it's also a collaboration with the Danish free climber Esben Sejer, who has been a consultant on the piece and has sort of like worked with Jonas on giving a suggestion for us for this climbing wall. And how it should be formed. And then a third part is Nature Climbing, a Danish design company that has designed all of the grips for the wall. And I think like what works very well in this piece is, of course, both that it is pure visuality. You can enjoy it as an art piece, but you can also use it. It has a function. Another aspect of the piece is that it also works as a form of microcosmos, like when you have a climber wall that is used by professional climbers, climber clubs that can come here and use it. You have this I see like the climber wall is almost like a microcosmos compared to the mountain, which is sort of like the big surrounding for climbing. Of course, we have like this now this big sign that is here to signal for people that the exhibition is going on here at Kunsthallen, and we've also tried to create this space where we have a dynamic between these two new sculptures, and they talk together in a way, and then we have like this sign which is also echoed all the way up in this flag, and it's a flag created by a Danish artist called Ditte Gantris, and she has created that as sort of like something different than an artwork, maybe more of a weird design piece where she has hacked this design made by a Danish designer called Maria Tran. And Maria Tran is also the designer behind our catalog and by our total visual identity for Kunsthallen. So, but maybe we should walk around and go into the first gallery.
As you were saying, there was inside. There's not a specific place for the exhibition, like it's everything.
Yeah, but it's sort of like at least trying to break this like very strict barrier of having like one space that is like an entrance or a foyer, and then you have like all of the exhibition places. I really wanted to break that down. This is the clothing that was made for the exhibition, made by Molo, a Danish clothing company that does children's clothing, and we approached them, and we had this like really interesting collaboration with them where they used like this entire image world from the extreme sports universe to do like designs for their clothing, and they also it also became part of like the scenography for the exhibition. When you go to the downstairs gallery, we also have another collaboration with another clothing company called Del.1, and they did the t-shirts for the exhibitions, and where they used Maria's design as part of their t-shirts, and also like her design for the exhibition. And another very big part of maybe also like an untraditional collaboration that tries to also traverse this distinction between design, between catalog, between artistic piece is this collaboration with Danish magazine, but it is internationally distributed. It's called Plethora. Plethora magazine has a very specific concept, and I would say almost like a philosophy. They want to use printed media in a new way. You could almost call it nowadays a dead media. Peter Steffensen, who's the chief editor of Plethora magazine, his idea is to sort of like do this large format magazine where the visuals really comes to the right, and he also like works very thoroughly with a printing company called Narayana, where he tries to sort of like get the most out of printing material, because like a lot of times when you do like catalogs, do books, it's sort of like almost like an automatic process where you say, okay, we need so and so many copies, you just need to create them for us. But he goes into every image and adjusts it so it gets like the best conditions, and really works with what's possible with the printed media. And then it's a large overview of artistic work and cultural images that deals with extreme sports, like early examples of people building wings trying to fly, and also like yeah, and this is an amazing shot. This is Chris Buchard, an extreme sports photographer that does these. A lot of his photographs are from the Arctic regions, where people surf or climb or whatever they do, and they have this like almost like magical, unreal quality to them.
Definitely.
And also we have like sumo wrestling, which is a pretty extreme example of an old sport that has existed since like almost 2,000 years, and it is an example of, like one could say, a very classical approach to extreme sports, where the sports practitioners are almost considered like deities, like religious figures.
Is this like the history?
And this is like an eclectic view into the 18th century sumo wrestling, and Peter acquired this whole collection of hand-painted photographs that are now reproduced here. These are 18th century fitness machines, and this guy that invented them, he also invented like the first fitness chain, where you sort of and every text and every font, like every text type for every article in the magazine is hand designed by a German designer, Christoph Schreiber. One example of like using the magazine or the catalog for the exhibition in a different way, to use it almost as a portal that will lead you into the exhibition, and maybe that's sort of like the clue for us to go into the gallery and look how it is displayed there. Okay, so this is the part of Go Extreme called Anatomy of the Extreme, and as I mentioned before, Plethora magazine is sort of like both a part of the exhibition, and it's also like a catalog for the exhibition. And here you have sort of like the corridor where we are showcasing the magazine, and this is a selection of images. The ones on the right are sort of like focused on training equipment and the extreme body, and also like extreme sports that demand an extreme training of the body, whereas the left side of the corridor is more focused on like the fantasy and sort of like the more almost like etherical quality of extreme sports, like the idea of reaching the top of the mountain or being in this environment that is also like a part of extreme sports, like almost like where the environment is almost like a state of the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this seems more related to outdoors,
Definitely.
Nature, and this is more like type of gym.
This is more like, this is physical material, the body, the gear, and this is more like the idea and the sort of like the mental image of extreme sports. Mm-hmm. And when we can move on into the portal, that is also like a type of entrance to this gallery that is not sort of like a part of the exhibition in a traditional way, more of an entrance space to the world of extreme sports. And it is comprised of 3 commercial videos we got produced for a trailer to the exhibition, and I really wanted to have sort of like also the promo material for the exhibition as part of the exhibition, and not have this like, okay, we have like a commercial side of the exhibition and then we drop that entirely, and then we have the artworks. So these are 3 films made by a Danish commercial photographer called Mikkel Palmbo, and it's 3 portraits of 3 different extreme sports athletes. Here is Esben Sejer. He's the free climber I talked about earlier, who has done the collaboration with for the climber wall outside. And we also have Esben is like a big part of the exhibition. He's doing 2 workshops that are focused on breath and also on meditation, which is in itself an extreme sport, I should say. And Esben has more than 20 years of experience with free climbing. And another portrait is Kasper Steinfath. He's a Danish surfer, most well known for being a 6-time world champion in stand-up paddleboarding. But Kasper has been focusing a lot on these big like challenges. He has crossed 2 different oceans now on paddleboard, And
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, and one of them is documented by a Danish director called Peter Alsted, and we showed that film as part of Go Extreme, and of course had Kasper here to do so like also an introduction, but also like maybe a more open discussion about pros and cons of doing extreme sports, maybe the light and dark sides, that you get obsessed because you have to be obsessed to do that, but it's sort of like a balance.
Adrenaline rush.
And it's an adrenaline rush, but it's also a balance where you maybe find out something else about yourself. And one of the complete driving forces for Kasper is personal freedom. And we've talked with a lot of people that have seen the film and was there, and he really meant a lot to them during also a period in time where we all experienced like a huge limitation of personal freedom, to sort of see him embrace that in some way. And last but not least, we have Christina Skov Madsen. She's a Danish ultra runner, and Christina was part of the marathon project we did with the two runners.
With the concert?
With the concert. Mm-hmm. And we also have had like different talks with Christina, where she's also talked about this drive for competing in races, and also maybe the essence of ultra running, which is a fairly special extreme sport that is like very demanding, but it's also very much one could say in some ways a lonely sport. It is a sport where you compete with yourself, and you have to sort of like, you have to develop a specific maybe even philosophy or approach to be able to sort of continue in this way. And Christina has dealt with a lot of different things, also being harmed by the sport, and have to train to get up there again. And it was important for us to also talk a lot with these athletes about the risk-filled thing of doing extreme sports. So basically, we just want to, in a, I could say, very open way, invite the athletes in to share their life experiences with doing these different extreme sports. And Christina is one of the biggest feats that she has accomplished as a ultra runner is there's a world competition called the World Marathon Challenge, where you have to run 7 marathons on 7 different continents during 7 days.
7 days?
Yeah. And
that's pretty intense.
And she is, it's both men and women that compete, and she's the winner of that. She's the champion of that discipline.
Because it's not something that it's so talked about.
No,
extreme sports.
And what we also got from a lot of the athletes is when it's talked about in like these pre-configured formats, where you get like 10 minutes of screen time on national television, and you have to sort of like tell your entire story, and then the interpretation of that just becomes, okay, it's an obsessed individual that just wants to do that, and it makes no sense. But what does make sense? I don't know. What are you doing right now? Yeah. But you have to sort of like, you have to choose, and this is an example of people that takes a choice, and then you have to sort of like deal with the consequences of those choices, good or bad. And we've chosen to contrast it with a figure that is not a piece of art, but it was important for me to include it in this specific exhibition. It is an anatomic figure from a traveling exhibition called Body Worlds, and it is a figure that is made of like human tissue that is plasticized by this special process, where you exchange like the wet parts of the body with the plastics, and then you get this anatomic figure. And it's like a big exhibition that travels all around the world with a lot of these figures. But
it's more like an anatomy.
It's a almost like a nature science exhibition, where you can get into like human anatomy anatomy in all sorts of ways. It was important for me to have this figure that shows the body in an extreme posture, and then have it to contrast these like larger than life portraits of the athletes, and get the audience a chance to see sort of like the pure human anatomy as a contrast to that.
And why do you think that this type of pieces are not usually seen in art exhibitions?
I think it has to do with two things. Of course, it is very controversial to do like an anatomic exhibition in this way, and to use donated bodies. That's one thing, but it also, I think, and that was what also interested me a lot. It traces a part of, I would say, both cultural history and also a very important part of our relationship to the body. That how do we get a knowledge and how do we get an insights into anatomy? Like 500 years ago, it was dedicated for nobility and maybe the artist that was capturing it. Like classic examples would be oil paintings, where they depict an anatomy section, like a body shown in that way. But this is for me, and the audience can like create their own meaning about this. But this is for me like a democratic way, a controversial but a democratic way to do this. To say, okay, this is the body on display. And this is like a procedure that is something that you do within medicine, like all the time. And now it's sort of like a public thing. And then it was interesting for me to have it as part of an exhibition where this shall be no surprise. I want to sort of delve into subjects that are controversial in a way.
Yeah, and I guess extreme sports in general are a bit controversial already. So this totally fits into the idea. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe we can go to the next one.
Definitely. Let's do that. Yeah. Okay. So this is like another type of entrance space to go extreme, and this entire room is an art piece created by a Danish artist called Ditte Gantris, and she has chosen to work with birth. And I really like that idea. She said provokingly to me, did it when we started working on the exhibition. She was like, "Okay, do you know there's like a lot of extreme sports that are closely connected to status. That you sort of like you complete a marathon and you do this and you do this and you sort of get a status from being an athlete." And she said, "Okay, one of the most extreme bodily experiences you can have is giving birth, and that is like the most it's not like frowned upon, but at least it's like normalized in some way." Definitely. So Ditte came with this idea, and she also said to me, wouldn't it be fun to consider if men were giving birth, what status birth would have? And I was like super enthusiastic about this. I was like, okay, this is a good idea. Let's work with this. And Ditte was also like very interested in working with, and now it is like an active space that is used. The cafe here at the Kunsthandel is used by the public, and people can just sit here. And the centerpiece of this part of Go Extreme is the bed here. It's the whole design is made by Ditte. Everything is hand drawn, and then a woodcarver, David Svane, has created the entire bed with this figurine of the woman giving birth. This centerpiece is combined with now a cafe that is in a completely different color scheme, and these flowers that are these transparent flowers that are sort of like changing colors depending on the weather, and also these vases that sort of have this. All of the space has this sort of like effect on your body when you're sitting at a table. You have to deal with this vase being there, so you have to sort of react on it, and you also have these ventilators that are placed around the room that are sort of like changing the temperature of the body as well.